We'll do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. Hi, I'm Joshua, and he's Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
We are doing a Wednesday night chatty, the talkie, if you will. It's GameHuggers, GameHump Wednesday night. How is everyone doing? How is everyone's week going? We are here. We're halfway through the week. Some people are probably looking forward to the weekend. Well, we're here to break up that action and have it so, man, you could start looking forward to Wednesday nights because we're here and we're going to chat about games. You can always follow me on Twitter @_Joshua Turbo to ask us any questions or suggest any ideas or come up with any topics you'd like us to talk about. But we've got things to talk about tonight. Right now, it's just Richard and I. There may be others that will join on later into the chat tonight. But, you know, if they don't, that's cool. But if they do, the more the merrier. We got a bunch of topics to jump into. But, Richard, how are you doing?
Doing all right. It's been very busy for me. I unfortunately haven't been playing as much stuff as I would like to. Got through both Super Bomberman games, and now I'm trying to play through Zack and Wiki. And it's
nice.
Kind of driving me crazy.
So Zack and Wiki was a Capcom Wii game?
Yeah.
Is that like a point and click adventure?
It's very strange because it's like a point and click adventure, but it's not like a traditional one where it's like an overarching adventure game and you go through and collect things and figure out where to use them and that sort of stuff. It's actually broken up into a bunch of tiny little levels that are like their own individual puzzles. And there's like every level you start out with nothing, so you have to pick up everything that you're going to use in that level. And there's a couple items that are consistent throughout the levels. So, you know, one of its big gimmicks is that you can turn animals and like enemies and stuff into items, and they'll always turn into the same items. So if you ever see like a pirate guy, you'll know that he's always going to turn into like a little block that you can, you know, put on stuff or roll down things or things like that. So it's kind of interesting. It's more of a puzzle take on point and click adventure gameplay.
That is really cool. My eight-year-old son and I were going through playing Sam and Max. I think it was Sam and Max. Oh, I wish I had it in front of me. It's the Wii game for Sam and Max.
Yeah.
And it's like a murder mystery / alien invasion / like 50s comic.
Yeah.
Same kind of concept. I think it's more traditional like PC point and click, where it's just straight up puzzles where you have to figure out how to get through the screen and figure out what key to put where or whatever to get this screen to allow you to get to the next area or go through a door or whatever. And we're finding it a lot of fun. It's really comical, a really, really funny game. And that's another really good one, you know, that I would recommend.
You know, those Wii ones are a reboot, actually, of like old DOS, like an old DOS series, yeah.
Yep, the DOS games, and I think they even got a release on the 3DO back in the day.
I could see it.
Sam and Max and Putt Putt Joins the Parade. I think there was a couple of them back in the day that were actually really awesome.
Yeah, Freddy Fish.
Yep. Is there a Saru Maru that has just joined?
Yes.
I hope he says
What's up, guys?
Hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
How are you doing, Mr. Mega Drive shirt guy?
Pretty good. I actually didn't think I was going to make it. I literally just bought this computer. I was like, I got to set it up quickly.
Nice. No, you didn't miss much. We were just doing introductions. Richard was talking about a few things that he'd been gaming with lately. How about you, Saru? Have you been playing anything lately?
I actually recently picked up something called Eternal City for the PC Engine. It's like a 2D platformer mech game. It's pretty cool. Not bad for 1989.
Sure. Eternal City, that's a Hue card, right?
Right.
That's awesome.
Or
that's
90,
awesome.
I think.
Yeah, I don't think I ever
Pretty
played
good.
it either. I don't think I ever played it either. That's not like in relation to like the City Connection games at all, is it?
No, it's actually some mech game that I guess was the mechanical design and character design was done by Masamune Shirow, the guy who did Ghost in the Shell and
Oh, awesome.
some other stuff.
It looks
Cool.
kind of like that Super Nintendo game. Man, I'm never gonna remember what it's called now. Metal Warriors.
Metal Warriors or Cybernator?
Yeah, yeah, like 2D platformer, but you're a robot.
Cybernator was good. I like that. That's from a series called Lanos. It's pretty
Assault
good.
Suit Lanos, yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. I remember they had, I think there was a sequel on the Saturn that was like Cybernator 2, basically, and then I thought there was one on the Atomus Wave, or maybe I'm crazy. Like Dreamcast Atomus Wave or something like that.
I don't think there was one on the Dreamcast, but they did make one on the PS2, and there's actually a Genesis version that of Lanos that came out in the U.S., I believe.
That was before Cybernator, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's all from the same series. I don't remember what they called it here. I'm trying to think. It had like a really like chintzy label on it too. It was just like text, almost looked like a homebrew.
Oh,
Weird.
that makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, let me just jump right into some of the topics we got. Some of these were requested on our Facebook page. Some of them were requested via the Twitters, and some of them were requested by some of the people that are a part of the show today. So, and there's no time limit here. I'm not going to try to pile on as many questions or anything as fast as I can like we've been doing the last couple weeks. It's just going to be casual, like, let's just chat about these things, and if you guys have a lot to, contribute to the conversation, that's cool. If not, we can just move on to whatever the next thing is. So,
Sounds good.
the very first thing that we were going to talk about this week is the topic of, like, getting into, like, retro games or going back and recollecting some of those games or adding games to your library that you used to have at one point. Or games that you always have wanted to get at some point. Games that have gotten too expensive, too rare, or just out of hand, and you have yet to attain. It's pretty simple. I got a few games that I always wanted to get into, but I either passed on it at the time, back in the 90s or 80s or whatever, and then just let too much time go by, and then I never had a chance to get into it, or because it was just too expensive. And that game, for me, it'd probably be a simple one just to cop out and say Magical Chase on the PC Engine or the Turbo Duo, because I had many opportunities when I first got into the Turbo in the early 90s, when I was doing mail order ordering from TZD or Turbo Zone Direct, and I remember I passed on Magical Chase at least a dozen times. I bought Sim Earth, I'd buy John Madden Duo CD Football, I'd buy all sorts of other games, and every time they would say, like, oh yeah, we still got many copies of Magical Chase left, are you interested in that? And I'm like, it's a Hue card. No, I want the CD stuff.
Oh,
I know. I feel you there. I did the same exact thing, and I regret it. It's like my biggest regret ever is passing up on a free copy of Magical Chase at that.
man.
Oh, what?
But at the time, so I'll wait for you to finish your story before I tell mine.
Well, there's nothing more much to tell. I mean, now I've played it using like the EverDrives or the flash drive games. To play it on real hardware is really cool. I've played it on my Duo or my Turbo Express, so I've actually gotten to play through the game. Beautiful, beautiful game. It's interesting because some people like really rag on it, like, it's a piece of crap. It's not even the top 10 and whatever. And it's like, actually, I would probably consider it one of the best games on the Hue card because it's just the amount of parallax scrolling, the music. Everything about it, the animation and like the cubes that are turning and stuff. I mean, it looks like it could really truly compete with the other 16-bit consoles, and that's what I love to see on the Turbo is games that look the part of a 16-bit console. Some of the best ones are like Street Fighter 2 or Air Zonk or Ninja Spirit. Those Turbo games that look as good as a Genesis or a Super Nintendo game, and that's what Magical Chase was to me. I would love to get a real legit copy, but for now I'm totally cool with reproductions or the flash cards that they got out now.
I've actually only ever played like the first level of that game. So when you were saying that just now, I was like, "What are you talking about?" But I'm skipping ahead in a long play and looking at some of the other levels, and it's actually pretty impressive. Yeah, got some interesting things going on.
It's interesting. The company that did that, and maybe, sorry, you have to remind me, is it TriAce?
Palsoft.
Palsoft. They did Magical Chase?
Yeah, Palsoft/Quest says on the title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Quest, I believe, became TriAce and wound up creating the oh my God, what is it? That big RPG that Enix did. Jeez, what is it?
They did Valkyrie Profile. They did the Dragon Quest series under the Enix label.
Yeah, they've done a whole bunch of stuff, but when they developed the PC Engine version, it was a different version than they wound up coming out with in the US version. They actually wound up, because it came out like 8 months later, they wound up adding stuff, and they added a whole bunch of background layers and character sprites, and they actually cleaned it up quite a bit. So it was actually the superior version of it, which is crazy that the US got the better version, but they actually did.
Yeah, they swapped out a lot of the backgrounds, and they changed Ripple's and her animation was different and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I just being in conversations with the rest of the community, I also heard that I think that they had initially made like 2,500 copies of the game, like 2,500 cue cards, boxes, instruction manuals, and everything. And when TZD was, or TTI was selling off everything to TZD, they actually destroyed almost 1,000 of them.
Oh,
the story is that there was a pallet of them and they bulldozed it.
Yeah, or that I think that's just a rumor, because they're saying that supposedly there were several, like 4 boxes of Magical Chase, and that they got buried, and there was a lot of stuff going on with that rumor, like back in the BBS days. People were talking about they just trashed them. So, I don't know if they're true, right?
If you
I don't know. I
it,
don't
you
either.
become rich.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have no idea if they're true, and it's probably just all the urban legends and the rumors and theories that we all have. But with the way that the game, how expensive it is, and how small our community kind of is anyway, it's like, gosh, you'd think we would have found most of them by now, but very few of us have got legit ones. But I would say that's probably mine. I can think of some other ones too. I also passed on Earthbound. Back in the day, I remember renting it and loving it and thinking it was really great. And I went to a Best Buy, and they were clearancing them, the big boxes with all the strategy guide and everything, and they had a pyramid of them on a display. And I walked past it and was like, I'm good. And I'm talking like they were $19.99 each. Like, I passed on that. It was so bad. But those are some of the big ones that I passed on and really regret it.
I think my biggest one. Oh, if you want to go ahead.
I don't know. I was just gonna. You're good.
Well, I was just gonna say, because I used to work at a mom and pop used game store a couple of years ago, and of course you'd see stuff come and go all the time, like some really rare stuff even. But I started working there right before prices started to really get ridiculous for a lot of things. And probably my biggest regret is Bonk's Adventure for the NES.
Oh,
wow, yeah.
Because they had that game sitting in the rare stuff case for probably like 5 or 6 months for $70. And I wanted it. I was like, do I $70 want it? It's, it's not as good as the TurboGrafx one. And I ended up just never actually getting around to it, and somebody else bought it, and now that game's worth what? How many?
I have no idea. What does that
game
go for normally?
The last I saw it, it was like $300. It's probably worth more now.
Jesus.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's gone. It just keeps going up and up. And yeah, I've seen them going for $300 or $400 on like forums like Neo Geo.
I think any NES game is worth $300 or $400 in my opinion.
Yeah. No, there's The Turbo version was really good, and then I think there was a Game Boy version of Bonk's Revenge that came out as well.
There was
Yeah, there were two of them, I think. Weren't there?
yeah, the Game Boy had Bonk's Adventure and Bonk's Revenge, but
That's right.
they're so different from any other versions that they're basically their own games.
Yep.
They're really good though. Surprisingly good.
I've played through Bonk's Revenge in the Game Boy, and it's really different, like you said, but it's really fun. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But how about you, Saru? Other than Magical Chase, and I probably steal your answer.
No, actually, I was gonna use Sid Mead's Terraforming as an example, but I think my Magical Chase story is probably more interesting than Terraforming. So, once upon a time, when the Super CD cards were being sold with the Gate of Thunder CD East 1 and 2 bundle from TurboZone Direct, they were $100 for the set. You could get the Super CD card, Gate of Thunder 3 and 1, and East 1 and 2.
Yep.
So TurboZone Direct sent it to me, and somehow the package got crushed, and so like my East game was like cracked, and all the cases were cracked. You know, and I called TurboZone Direct, and I was like, "What the hell, guys? Why is this shit all cracked?" And they were like, "Oh, we're really sorry about that. My manager says we could send you a free game." And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I'll take a free game." You know, didn't care about the cracked East. So I was like, "Do you guys have cotton?" And he's like, "Yeah, we have tons of cotton." I was like, "All right, I want cotton. Send me cotton." And he's like, "Okay, hold on, let me just ask my manager." So he puts me down, and like maybe like a minute or two later, he comes back and he's like, "My manager suggests if you want Magical Chase instead, because everyone here thinks it's a better game." And I was like, see, I was like, Hue card. When you said that, that same thing flashed back in my head. I was like, I don't want this stinking Hue card. I want a CD with animation and like a crazy ass soundtrack, right? So I was like, no, I don't want your Magical Chase. I was like, send me cotton. And then I ended up changing my mind, and I said, you know what? Send me Shockman. I was like, because if I want any Hue card, it's Shockman, because it's, you know, like Mega Man, very similar.
Yeah.
So I was like, I made my mind, send me Shockman. So they sent me Shockman, which I still have. I still have my original Shockman. But I look at it every time and I'm like, damn you! You cost me a Magical Chase!
It's painful.
I love Shockman. I mean, I could totally see where you're like, oh my god, Shockman, thanks for nothing.
Right.
So funny. Shockman is a perfect combination of Mega Man and Gunstar Heroes and very, very unpolished game controls.
Polished or not, it's a lot of fun to play.
It is a really cool game, but getting through it with two players is really, really hard.
It's a nightmare. Yeah, because you share a life bar, and
yeah,
I don't know what they were thinking when they did that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen this game. Very interesting.
Well, Shockman, it's like a 4 or 5 game series, but in Japan it was known as Shibibin Man. There's 1, 2, and 3 that came out on the PC Engine. We got number 2 in the US, and they decided to call it Shockman. And then there was Shibibin Man 0 on the Super Famicom, and I mean, if you want honest answers, like 3 and 0 on the Super Fami are really great games. 3 is a bit easy, but honestly, sometimes it's just fun to blast through a game really easy. It is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Two's got
super easy.
Yeah, it's honestly, I could probably go through it if I played it like once a year. I could play through it in one guy.
Yeah.
Almost every time I pick it up, it's like one guy.
That's
Like a
definitely
20-minute clear.
looks like Mega Man.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's very much. You do the charge shot. You can do all kinds of stuff. The thing that's cool about Shockman though is they combined the side scroller levels with like some shoot 'em up levels, and I actually think the shoot 'em up levels in Shockman are the best part of that game. Like there's a water one that's the first one that you're introduced to that's kind of easy, and then there's a space one later on, and like a flying one in the clouds later on that are just really really well done. The music is awesome. NCS or Messiah does the music for those games, and the PC Engine never sounded better than when they were doing the tunes for it. They like were masterminds when it came to music. So I love it. I think I would rate among like my favorite Hue card games is Shockman, but I'm not too blinded by how much I love it. But to say it's got issues with play control, it's got glitchiness, it's got glitches here and there, and and if you got the US version, the dialogue is freaking hilarious. It is so funny.
Yeah, the context is I think lost or something. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's great. You meet like your ultimate rival, and you get into this big fight, and you like gets down to like 1 hit point, and then the rival disappears, and then your character's just like, what the heck? Where'd he go? And then it pans up to the other guy, and he goes, I better be careful. I might lose next. Like, thank you. That was amazing. I might lose next. That's great.
Excellent dialogue.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so how about we jump right into the next thing? I got a cat climbing around here. What would be some of your favorite game cases? And I mean like the boxes, the art, the instruction manual art, things like that. What would be some of your favorite game cases?
Commodore 64.
How about one particular game?
Yeah.
What?
Mac is outside.
Oh, can you let him in?
And Bogey, you let Bogey out?
No, he's in. Yeah, it was Mac, sorry. I was teaching him a lesson. He wasn't coming. Sorry about that. I actually forgot my dog outside. Whoops.
Aw.
He's fine. He's fine. I'll have to cut this out of the downloadable version. Game cases, like, can you think of any in particular that you can like point out as like a game that is like got amazing art or really funny art or?
So, I guess the first one that comes to mind for me is the original MDK for PlayStation. Actually has a really well done instruction manual. Like it's really funny. I couldn't really go into too much detail why, but it's just hilarious. But in terms of like pack-ins and stuff, I think like the more you go back to like really old computer games, especially like text adventures and graphic adventures and things like that, the crazier the packaging gets and like the what do they call them, the feelies that they come with. Like a friend gave me a whole bunch of Commodore 64 games that I actually don't care about at all because they're like flight sims and like submarine sims and things like that. But they come with really cool stuff. Like one of the games actually comes with a novel for the manual, which is like a full-fledged like kind of like a flight manual, like how to fly this spaceship that our game is based around or something like that. And it's got like this whole, backlog, or not backlog, but like a backstory. Like it's just amazing that they wrote a fucking novel for a video game.
It's really cool.
Like there was one that just came with a bunch of like, it came with like a letter that one of the people from the game was supposed to send you at some point, and then you open it up and it's like, oh, I've included this thing with this little bit of string in this baggie that ties into a gameplay thing somehow. I don't know. I really like little feelies like that.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I like I had a book series when I was younger, and I think I still have one of the books, and it's called like the Raster Gang or something like that, where it's like it looks like it's a complete and total ripoff of Tron, where it's like got characters that are on bikes and they're flying through the zigzag levels or whatever. And it's like a little mini novel where it's like a 100-page book or whatever, but in the back it's got the code that you can put in, and this is for Tandy or Commodore 64 or old like DOS computers with Microsoft Basic, and you can put the code in, and it's like 20 pages of code, and then you could play the game after you put the code in. And it's just like a text adventure or something, but it's like that kind of stuff is really awesome. I love that stuff.
Interesting.
It was one of my favorite game covers from back in the day. I think I really had a lot. I really fell in love with the Super Nintendo series of like Street Fighter II and Street Fighter 2 Turbo. The actual like the cartridges or the cases themselves, how they'd always feature like two characters. I think like Street Fighter 2 was E Honda and Blanca, I think, and then Street Fighter 2 Turbo was Chun-Li and Sagat. Was it?
Other way around.
Is it the other way around?
Yeah, so the Super
right.
Nintendo was Blanca, Ryu, and Chun-Li. And
That's
like,
right.
strange poses. And then it was E Honda and Sagat for whatever reason for hyper fighting or turbo,
Yeah.
whatever the heck they called that one.
Yeah, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Yeah, no, I thought they looked really weird. Like they looked very odd on the covers. But I remember like being at the rental store and being like, I'm actually holding Street Fighter 2 in my hands. And like when I wanted to buy one so badly, I was like riding home with my parents and holding the box, just like staring at it like, this is Street Fighter 2. Oh my god. And
Right.
it was
Like,
very
back then it was a big deal when that first came out. You know,
Oh, yeah,
'cause it's
the
so
first one.
hot in the arcade.
Yeah, and I remember seeing it in the arcades, and we played it, you know, getting like 50 cents or a couple bucks to bring to an arcade and playing it for a little bit. That's nothing compared to spending $2 and being able to play it for a weekend or something, you know.
Right.
It's crazy. But that's some of my favorite game art, like the covers and stuff, the cases. Otherwise, if we're just talking about like how games are packaged or cases like that, a game system that I never really connected with all that much growing up, but I'm beginning to really start to like totally respect and fall in love with now is the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, and those clamshell cases they have. I wish every single game console ever made used those from like all the retro days. I wish the Jag games were in those. I wish Super Nintendo, NES, like all of them, because man, it is so cool to see going to a game store or pawn shop or thrift stores and seeing like complete Genesis games like that with a nice manual, with the boxes that are almost in like mint condition almost all the time, and then the game inside. And it's so nice. Like to find a Super Nintendo box in a store is like the most rarest thing in the world, but to see Genesis games, I see them like all the time.
Right.
And
'Cause they were smarter about it.
I'm in much the same boat because I remember back in the day I was kind of a Nintendo fanboy, right? And I always thought like the Genesis cases felt kind of cheap. Like I don't know, something about them being like plasticky or something. But nowadays it's like that was such a better idea. Like I appreciate that so much more.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I have absolutely no desire to collect any Super Nintendo or NES or N64 boxes because I feel like it's paying a premium for cardboard that's just going to disintegrate anyway.
Yep.
Right.
Whereas with
a
the
lot of
Genesis,
times are badly deteriorated when you find them with cardboard.
yeah, and like with Genesis stuff, it feels like, you know, at least it's not going to just fall apart on me.
Yeah, I see a lot of guys doing things nowadays where they're making like reproduction boxes or cases and things like that, and they're really just making Genesis boxes for
Yeah, universal game cases, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. I like that a lot. Now, for you guys as games libraries, are you guys big into collecting, or are you just like having lots of games to choose from? I mean, what is your preferences? Do you like having complete games, or do you care about loose carts or loose discs? What do you prefer? We'll start with you, Sarumaru.
So with me, I like having, especially for PC Engine, because it's just CD and case. So you can't kind of have the CD without having like the whole thing, you know. So like I think it's essential that you have the case and the manual. With Hue cards, though, I'd be happy with the manual and the Hue card, not necessarily a case. Especially in the U.S., they didn't really come with cases in the later days. Like a lot of titles after 1991 and up started coming in like these like plastic trays, and they weren't even cases anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, but I like to have the whole thing. The outside cardboard, I don't really care for, but as long as I have like the actual like case for it that houses the game, that's good. Good enough for me.
Yeah, I guess I would agree. It depends on which console it is. If it's like Like if it's a Super CD game or a CD-ROM or even Sega CD games, it's nice to have it in the case, so you know it's protected. But if it's loose, you're gonna get your own like little jewel case and maybe try to do your own like art or whatever if you print some off the internet and try to make your own, which looks it looks nice too and it works. I mean, if you're just interested in having the games, that's a cool way to do it. I did get a Lunar Silver Star Story loose for the Sega CD a couple years ago at the Midwest Classic for $15, and I'm definitely
not bad.
I'm very, very happy with that, and I got to play through that on the Sega CD, and it's such a wonderful game. But I can understand someone wanting to have the complete box and the because Working Designs always put so much effort into their manuals and the the inside jokes and stuff like that into that, and I don't know if it's worth $100 more or whatever it's going for, but it's definitely worth more than just the disc loose.
I agree. I was actually going to bring them up as the in terms of packaging for games and how games come in really nice boxes. They did a great job with all that stuff. They did like the glossy text or the metallic print on them, and they pack them with decals and all sorts of cool stuff.
Yep. Who does a better job with their special? What am I trying to say? Who does a better job with the packaging and the extras that they add to it? Working Designs or PCE Works?
I'd probably still have to say Working Designs.
Good. That's funny. I agree. I was going to mention too. One of our friends, Tony Majors. If you go to the Midwest Classic, you'll probably meet him. He is totally all about cue cards. He doesn't even really have a whole lot of CD games, and he just brings the hue cards in a stack of hue cards. He actually puts a rubber band around them, and just plops them down, and he's like, "There you go." And it's like, dude, there's Salamander in there, and Parodius is in there. That's like a $60 game. And he's like, I don't fucking care,
Magical Chase.
I don't think Magical Chase is in there, but he probably would throw it in there if he had it. So.
That's what I would
Drops
do.
them on the table like a stack of poker cards.
It's pretty awesome though. It's pretty cool to be able to carry like 15 games in your pocket though. That's kind of slick.
I probably still wouldn't. I'm one of those people who like when they grab their CDs, they have to grab them from the edges and like place it down with both hands. I had a friend come over and he grabbed. He brought one of his games. We were playing my Turbo Duo, and he grabbed the CD from like the middle. Like he's like grabbing it, and I'm like, "Your palms are touching the bottom of the CD. What are you doing?"
Grab
And
it
it's
like that?
That's no big deal, Brad. And I'm like, ah.
Put your finger in the spindle.
It's so easy.
Or just hold it from the edge. Whatever you do, just don't touch it.
Don't touch the data part.
It's like taking a cartridge and licking the contacts on a cartridge. It's no different.
Or blowing in it.
Right.
It's actually really bad.
I think everybody did that. Everyone.
Yeah, right.
It did, but it makes me cringe nowadays because I know what it does to them. Like I've seen some cartridges that look like they sank with the Titanic. They look so bad.
Yeah, they get corroded so bad, and they're all brown.
Yeah.
It comes from years of blowing on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Richard? What are some of your favorite, other than like Commodore 64 games?
So for me, I don't really, in terms of Commodore 64, like I don't actually have that many physical games because I have a lot of standards for how I collect things. And one of my standards is I refuse to collect stupid fucking floppy disks that are not going to work in like a year and that you're going to have to rewrite anyway. So yeah, even like Famicom Disk System, my intent with that is just to make it so that I can write ROMs using a Famicom Disk System and then play them on a Famicom.
That's
and not have to deal with collecting floppy disks because those things are terrible.
Yep.
When it comes to cartridges, usually I'm okay with it just being loose. If it originally came with a clamshell, like the Genesis or like the DS or like things like that, then I try to get it with the clamshell. If it's like a CD, I also try to get it with the jewel case, of course. But I'm not, at the same time, I'm not going to pass up a good deal because it doesn't come complete. Like if I can find a game that's normally $50 and it's like $20, but it doesn't have the case, it's like I'll print out a repro. I know people with good printers. They can make a convincing fake. I don't really care that much.
Right.
Got a decent deal on a what's it, Bonk 3, but it doesn't have the case, and it's like I don't care. Still play it.
Oh, nice. For the PC Engine?
Turbo.
Oh, cool, cool.
US
Nice.
version, yeah.
Very
So-
awesome.
Yeah.
Those are pricey, right?
Yeah, that's one of those stupid expensive ones, yeah.
It is. I've had it. Well, I used to have it back in the day, and then I sold off my whole game collection in 2008. I think I sold that specific game complete for like 150 or something, and that wasn't me saying this is how much I want for it. It was like, I was saying how I was going to sell my stuff, and someone just said, "I'll give you 150 for it," and I'm like, "Sure." I had no idea what it was worth, but since then I've gotten the Japanese hue card of the game, which is very, very good. It's got some. So it's interesting to play it now because it's actually got more animations, and I think it's a little bit more fluent than the CD version is. But the CD version was recently released in the PCE Works Turbo Duo Memories box set, and I've gotten a copy of that disc, which plays just like the US version. And it's really cool. I love the soundtrack of the CD version. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like the best of the Bonk games, but it's really cool to play two-player simultaneous with the CD music and having those like bonus levels and stuff. It's a really, really cool game. I love that one.
What's funny? As big as a fan I am of PC Engine, I don't have any of the Japanese Bonk games. I don't have a single one.
Really?
Yeah. I have 250 something titles. Not one of them is a Bonk game or Air Zonk or anything.
But you have the US titles of those?
I have the 3-in-1 disc, my original 3-in-1 disc.
Okay. You don't have Airzonk then?
I don't have Air Zonk. I don't have PC Denjin or whatever it's called in
Yeah.
Japanese.
Shoot.
I want it though.
I had the Japanese Airzonk for a while, and someone put up a thing, or no, I was talking about it on the PC Engine FX forums probably like 4 years ago, and I said, man, I'd love to have the US version again, and someone just straight up traded it to me. Straight up traded for
Really?
one for the other. The Japanese one is not that expensive, but the US
Now
one,
it's
I
like
guess
$50.
that's crazy. Yeah, it's getting more and more expensive, but he straight up traded it, and now I got the US version again. So, and he sent the instruction manual with it, and I was completely not expecting that.
Wow, that's
Mhm.
crazy because don't they go for like $150, right?
I
150,
am-
$200.
No idea. It's more expensive than the Japanese one for sure. But it was. I
That's
mean,
with almost all those games. So
yeah, it's kind
those
of
versions
crazy.
are crazy expensive.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, just be glad I don't collect for the domestic stuff.
I know, right? So the next topic we had was kind of about talking about like favorite manuals and strategy guides, but we kind of did jump into that a little bit. Did you guys have anything more that you wanted to add to it about like maybe some of your favorite strategy guides or instruction manuals or?
With me, just the cases. I always liked how the hue cards were packed. I thought it was a neat concept how they were put on cards and they were put in sleeves, and it was pretty neat. I just liked how they packaged them. See, like this one here, which is actually Eternal City. This is one of the ones I just got. But I mean, you guys are familiar, but just to anyone who's not,
Right.
I always liked how they did that with
Little
PC
sleeves
Engine
for
games.
these, yeah. I like
little
those.
sleeves. And it's funny because a lot of different manufacturers did them differently too. Like this one, Nagsat just made the ones where they just kind of lay in there, and then some of them have like the hinge that holds them together.
Yep.
And then a few companies made the hue cards with little pegs in them, like it holds the hue card in. I don't know if you can really see that. Yeah, you can. See how it's got like little pegs? Yeah, Koryun. Love Koryun.
That's so good.
Yeah, I just thought that's cool.
Yeah, no, that is kind of weird. Yeah, in the U.S., we had the one type with that little lip over it where it was kind of holding it in. But the first time I remember seeing the holes that are poked into it, where you kind of lay it in there and you poke the holes through it or whatever, was Street Fighter 2. That one had the little holes in it too. That was also the double case.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 as well though, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I love the boxes and the cases for the Turbo. I always thought that was so neat to see that, and and then when the systems did go forward into the like CDs, where all the next consoles were all CDs, and it was all in jewel cases, other than Sega for whatever dumb reason. But PlayStation and 3DO and everything from there on was doing those little jewel cases. It was like, see, Turbo had it first. I can store like 50 games in this much space.
Right?
Man, I don't know. 3DO had freaking even bigger cases.
They did. At first they did, but so did the
cardboard
PlayStation.
ones.
Yeah, they were bad.
Saturn and PlayStation did that too. They weren't cardboard, but they did like the really super jumbo cases.
The PlayStation had cardboard ones, and then they switched to ones that were pretty much identical to the Saturn and the Sega CD, and then they went into the little cases, which was just brilliant because it was like, I don't know why Sega stuck with the giant ones for so long.
These things shatter so easily.
Oh, they're awful.
They did.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how lucrative it would be to go into the business of making those large clamshells, because tons of people buy games that they just sacrifice simply so they can put their Magic Knight Ray Earth or whatever other rare Saturn game in.
Yep, I usually wind up buying them and then switching them with, like, if it's a nicer game like Knights or Magic Knight Ray Earth or whatever, I'll switch them with like something like Madden '98 or Minnesota Flats.
Because that's what those games are good for.
Yep. Nobody ever played them. So.
No.
Let's jump into a topic here. Some voice actors. We can talk about worst or best voice actors or most memorable voice actors, and we don't even have to talk about the actors themselves. We can just talk about games and some of the voice acting in games that you either remember really well, fondly, or were just terrible. And I can jump into this first. I might steal Saramaru's thunder, but my favorite voice acted game of all time would be on the Turbo Duo CD game called Last Alert. It's a game with Guy Kazama, and it's crazy. It's just listening to the voice acting between the scenes and between the levels, and they have tons of scenes. I think there's like 25 minutes of spoken dialogue in the game, and it's just hilariously terrible. All of the scenes with Guy Kazama, he's just overacting the whole time, and it's now been 20 years since I've experienced it from the first time, and I just go back to it almost like I would go back to a really terrible B movie, like a Schwarzenegger movie or a Dolph Lundgren movie or something, and just like, oh yeah, this season's amazing, wait till you see this. And my kids are just like, Dad, this is the worst thing ever. Why are you making me?
Why are you subjecting us to this?
But man, and if you want to check those out, just Google or YouTube, Last Alert for the PC Engine or Turbo Duo, and there's just everyone's got the cutscenes up on YouTube. You can watch them all, and they're so funny. It's just the voice acting is so great.
It's super cheese, but I mean, those are one of those things that it's just so bad that it's just good.
Yeah.
It's not that really terrible. Yeah.
It's one of those games that's considered to have like the worst voice acting ever, along with like Mega Man 8.
Oh, ever? Wow.
Yeah, it is.
I know that. I knew it was bad. I didn't know that ever.
I've seen it listed with other ones, people saying it's the worst ever.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, Game Informer, I think this was in 2012, Game Informer had top 10 worst voice acting ever, and number 3 was Last Alert for the Turbo Duo, which is like, Game Informer never says TurboGrafx 16 in their magazine, but they said it there. They had also mentioned a bunch of 3DO games or CDI games like Plumbers Don't Wear Ties or whatever and stuff like that, because those are really bad too. But man, Last Alert, it's so bad that it's good. That's what's great about it. There's a lot of those games that come across, from Japan, and they're just translated so lazily or so poorly. I think of like the PS2 version of Castle Shikigami 2. That one has got.
another one that's considered. Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so bad.
I haven't
That.
heard that one.
Oh, sorry. You've got to watch the videos of it. It is hilarious.
Not bad, huh?
They're
What do they
they're
call it
really
here?
funny.
Call it something completely different too, like Super Sunshine Patrol or something crazy. It wasn't called Castle of Shikigami, was it?
Oh,
Or was I
they
thinking
did.
the first game.
They did. Yeah, the first one was called Mobile Light Force,
That's it, Mobile Light Force.
and then they did Castle Shikigami 2, and then the exclusive Castle Shikigami 3 came out on the Wii,
That's right.
and it's like supposed to be a really, really great game.
I love 3. 3 is really good.
3 is really good, yeah. But yeah, I think of those, and I think of like the Dynasty Warriors games by Koei. Those got really terrible dialogue too. It's just ridiculously cheesy and silly stuff. But
I think the first game that really came to mind when I thought of voice acting was Psychonauts. Really, 'cause that game actually has really good voice acting, and it's hard to like go into exactly why. It's just kind of like, it's not forced. It's not poorly executed. The characters all have personality. It's well written.
Yep.
Yeah.
The actors are.
That game is good all around.
Yeah, that game
It's
it's
good
pretty good
gameplay, good voice acting.
But just in particular, like even beyond the gameplay, for me that game really stood out with like its characters and the character development, and I think the voice acting lended a lot to that.
Yeah.
It was a very well done game in that regard. And the other one that kind of comes to mind is Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah.
Because even if some of the characters sound pretty much the same, I think that whole game was done by one person. Or like two people. Like I think they had a guy and a girl, and that's it.
Wow.
And like, because I don't remember. I remember seeing it in the credits. Like there's only two people listed as voice actors. And then you go back through some of the scenes and you watch them and you're like, oh, wait, yeah, totally. It's just that same guy doing every single voice. And it's like, for only having one person and as many characters as he had to do, it's pretty impressive.
That is pretty crazy. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how many voice actors there were for Conkers, but yeah, I think it was a real like tight group of just a couple guys doing several of the characters' voices.
Yeah.
Different. Everybody had like different accents and different, different styles to them or lisps,
Different
things like that.
accents. It was all like a British accent, but just trying to sound less or more British.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Okay, so before we end this week, I wanted to try something new here with you guys, and that was one word or one phrase reactions to things. And the things I'm going to show you are some video game related things. And I know that a big thing on YouTube these days is reaction videos. Everyone's putting up reaction videos like, oh, teenagers react to the Game Boy, or old people react to Grand Theft Auto or whatever. And I'm just going to show you guys things, and I'll explain what they are for those that are listening on the Podomatic podcasts. But I'll just choose one of you guys, and you just give me a phrase or the first thing that pops to your head. It doesn't have to be one word like wow or anything. It can just be whatever you're thinking. So
Is this segment called Grown Ass Men React to Video Games?
that is it. Yes. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. All right, Richard, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
Are you ready?
Ready to
All right.
react to this thing.
React. I'm going to show you a cartridge of Shaq Fu.
Cliche is my reaction, I guess.
Cliche to Shaq Fu on the Sega Genesis.
It's the bad game. It's the one everyone goes to. They're like, remember E.T. on the Atari? Remember Shaq Fu?
All right.
Notoriously bad games.
I don't got much of a reaction for that one. I've seen it a billion times.
Sure. All right, Sarah, are you ready? I'm going to show you the Atari 2600 Frogger game.
Ah! I actually liked the 2600 Frogger game.
A good version. I like that Doom you did though. That was very.
That was
advanced.
really good. Yeah, I liked that. Whoa. All
It wasn't a
right.
bad game. It was alright.
All right, Cooler, you ready?
Yeah.
The Virtual Boy controller.
Actually, I really like the Virtual Boy controller. It's comfortable. I don't know. I like it.
I like it too. I'm actually a fan of it. I think it's awesome. For the games that came out on it, which are almost all very fun games, it's a great controller.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting though. Most people see it and they're like, 2 plus pads? Why would you?
Why would you need that? Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm ready. I'm playing.
All right. Sorry, you ready?
No.
Oh, well, get ready, because here it comes. A yellow Famicom computer.
Oh, you know what? When I was a kid, I had a yellow ass Famicom just like that. My mom found it in a pawn shop, so that actually brings back somewhat pleasant memories. I see it now and I'd be like, oh, that's gross.
Really?
That's
I don't. You know, and I see a lot of people that whenever they see this, they're like, "Oh, you got to retro bright that, and you got to do lots." And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
I like
See,
that.
and I would too. I don't like the whole like yellow thing, but when I was a kid, I had a Famicom and it was yellow. It was probably even yellower than that. It was super yellow.
I like
these
yellow.
people were
I think it
like
looks cool.
super smokers.
Red and gold, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind it. I think it looks cool.
You got the special gold edition
Yeah. This is rare.
Emphysema bundle.
All right, Richard.
That was kind of cool though.
I like your reactions. This is good so far. One of the best games, in my opinion, ever. Shenmue for the Dreamcast.
Speaking of voice acting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not too much of a fan of Shenmue, to be honest.
The show is done.
The show is canceled.
Get off of the show.
I don't know. The last time I tried to play it was like a decade ago, probably longer.
Sure.
And I haven't really tried to play it since. But I wasn't a fan of QuickTime events, and it seemed to me like that game was QuickTime events. The game.
It's got a few.
I don't know.
And it was actually slow moving. As much as I'd say I really want to like Shenmue, I thought it was kind of slow moving.
I'll give it another shot one of these days, I promise. But I don't know. My initial impression was not strong.
Sure. Sega might come up with an HD remix or remake of the first two. At least that's what I hear. All right, Saru. Virtual hideaway.
No.
Just no?
Just no.
It's funny because the first time I played this, I actually really enjoyed it. It's hard to go back to, but
That's one of those things that reminds me that the Sega Saturn should have stuck to 2D stuff.
Yeah.
When I look at that, I'm like, ugh, textures. Polygons so sharp they can cut your skin.
I love low poly.
Yeah, it's like super low poly.
But I love super low poly. I actually like the way that game looks.
I don't hate that game. I mean, I won't say that I go back to it and say this is so much fun, it's so amazing nowadays, but I never hated it, and I thought it had some cool aspects to it.
It's okay. It's not a bad game. I was just trying to give you a reaction, but it's all right. It's not bad. I mean, the Saturn did have some good stuff. I mean, we had Knights that was in 3D, and
Sure.
Burning Rangers was all right.
You ready, Richard?
Yeah.
It is an Amiga.
Oh my god. I like it.
With a disc.
I don't like that part. Fuck that part.
Oh, I know.
Stupid.
They break pretty easily.
I really like the Amiga. I don't have one because I don't know 100%, and I haven't been able to get an answer from people if the US one can play PAL games. Because much like every other non-PC computer, all of the good games are Europe only on that thing.
Yeah, that's true. There are mods now that you can do. And I know that there's issues with PAL and the frame rates of some games, but there's a new mod out now where you actually will pull out the entire disk drive and you can replace it with an SD card slot and put all of the games on one SD card slot and slap it in there.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
From what I've heard, you can play all of the regions, regardless of what region it is from. And the European side, of course, got the best of Commodore or Amiga games.
Some Lionheart going.
Yep. All right, Saru, I'm ending it with you. Well, not ending it. There's two more, one for each of you. But you get my most prized possession. It is an Atari Jaguar controller.
What?
What are your thoughts on this?
What? Why?
Look at. Okay, before you go crazy, look at.
I don't know.
You got a nice D-pad. You got an A, B, and C button. You've got the buttons here so you can phone a friend. I mean, there's so many buttons.
You have like 22 buttons for no apparent good reason.
There's an option button, just like the Atari Lynx had.
And like the worst D-pad. God, that D-pad was terrible.
It's pretty bad. It's
yeah,
pretty bad.
Super bad.
It's not very comfortable in your hand either. Feels like I'm
I
holding...
still get an old Jaguar over the Chameleon.
Yeah, true.
That goes without saying. At least the Jaguar had games and hardware
and
existed.
native hardware.
And it existed. It was a real thing, right?
It was a thing.
All right. You ready, Mr. Richard?
Right.
This is the last of all of it. This is Cosmic Fantasy 2 on the Turbo Duo CD-ROM system by Working Designs.
Best artwork ever.
I actually don't know what that game is. I'm
Cosmic Fantasy 2?
Yeah, I'm a pleb. I don't know what that game is. What is that
Well,
game?
you've
I'm
got
gonna look it up right now.
You've got a Duo, and you...
I don't. I only have a TurboGrafx.
Oh, but you have Bonk 3 CD?
No, I have Bonk 3
Card.
Oh, I thought you said CD. I'm a schmuck. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, this is Cosmic Fantasy 2. It was the part of a 5-game series that came out on the Turbo CD or the PC Engine CD in Japan. One came out in Japan, and we were going to get that in the U.S., and apparently they canceled it when Cosmic Fantasy 2 was already in development.
Oh, this is fucking Phantasy Star.
No, it's fucking Cosmic Fantasy. Don't you dare.
Cosmic
It's the
Fantasy
same.
Star.
It's the exact same game.
No.
It's the same.
Except with
It's got the tall
crazy good
characters.
cutscenes.
It's got FMV cutscenes and voice acting that's actually pretty good. And it's also got...
It's also got bibs.
Yeah, Babs.
Bibs in the shower.
It's got a shower scene. This is a very adult game. You should totally have checked. Yeah, it's a good one. I won't say it's a perfect RPG, but it's really good. And after Cosmic Fantasy 2, they came out with 3 and then 2 parts of 4. 4 part 1 and part 2 in Japan.
Yeah.
But we never got them in the U.S. The only one we got was
so
this
sad.
one.
Weird.
And that's like, I think, wasn't that Working Design's first endeavor at a voice-acted CD game, wasn't it? Wasn't it Cosmic Fantasy 2?
Yes, it was, because they had done Kadash and Parasol Stars before that.
Right,
those were
before
both
that,
cue
and those
cards.
were cue cards. And so, like, their zany, like, kooky voice acting that they've been known for came from Cosmic Fantasy. And a lot of the characters had really crazy voices. It was a lot of fun.
It is. It's like basically without Cosmic Fantasy 2, there would have been no U.S. translation of Lunar. And if you like the Lunar games, it's very similar.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What was your favorite moment in that game?
In Cosmic Fantasy 2?
Yeah.
God, there was a couple scenes. I think it was one of the first times in a role-playing game. I mean, I had played Final Fantasy 2, which was Final Fantasy 4 in Japan, But like, you know, I played Dragon Warrior games and I played the Ultimate games on the NES, but
Yeah.
those games were like building up your party and you just keep going and keep adventuring and you keep doing side quests, and then finally at the end you meet the ultimate boss and you fight him. A Cosmic Fantasy 2, I mean, my favorite thing is seeing the opening segments, the cutscenes, when you first go off to that village that's off to the side, and you're like, look at the old tree where you carved in your initials with Laura, and then you look over and you see the village is on fire, and you run back, and someone's ransacked the village, and you're just trying to figure out what you're supposed to do and where you go next. And I think it's like an hour into the game when you first fight Galem, and he just destroys you.
Yeah.
And it's a battle that you cannot win. And it's like the first time I had ever experienced that. And I was like, I just saw the boss of the game. Like, if there was some way I could go back to my save and try beating him again, like, I could just beat the fucking game.
Right.
But it doesn't work that way.
It.
Right. It just doesn't work that way. And then, of course, you know, Laura gets kidnapped, and then you go off on this crazy space adventure. And the game starts off like it's just this medieval role-playing game. And, you know, via a couple hours into it, all of a sudden you're in space. And it's like, I don't know if there's any one particular scene. I think it's the shower scene, as being like a 14-year-old boy playing it for the first time and seeing the shower scene was like, oh,
right?
yeah,
you were like, whoa, you can totally see them boobies. Even though they did like the fog thing, you know?
Yeah, true.
There
but
were still boobies.
There was enough to be left to the imagination. So.
Right?
But yeah, I mean, it's not the perfect role-playing game for sure. Playing it now, you can see. When they brought it to the U.S., they messed up a bunch of stuff too because they got really lazy with some of the programming. You can't, like, there's no missing in the game. Like, you never miss. They programmed missing completely out of it. And then there's some items in the game that don't do anything because they just weren't sure how it translated over, so that you can use them and it just won't do anything. They won't heal you. They won't hurt anything. It says you use this. But the missing thing is really odd because you can attack and do damage, and then you can attack again and miss, but it'll do 0 damage, and it's just like, that's not how the Japanese version is.
Right.
It's weird.
Oh, so there's a text.
So you miss, but it doesn't do any damage, but it tells you it did 0 damage?
No, you don't miss, and the guy goes, and it shows like an attack, and then it just says you did 0 damage.
Oh, so it doesn't tell. Oh, that's dumb. Yeah, that's
yeah. Yeah, you never miss in Cosmic Fantasy 2. That actually bugged me. Like, one of the first times I played it, I noticed right away. I'm like, you never miss. Like, no one ever misses, and it's like, that's a little weird. So, I don't know.
One of my favorite things in that game was one of the chickens you talk to in the village in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know how you like talk, and they'll be like, bok, 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 and one of them randomly just says, thank you, Master. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's a sense of humor.
This group has definitely been good for introducing me to strange, obscure TurboGrafx and PC Engine games, and I guess this is another one, along with, what was it, Shockman?
Yeah, Shockman's really good.
Shockman's good, yeah.
If you can only play Hue cards, Shockman's a really good one.
It is.
I just don't have a CD yet. Like, it's on my to-get list. You know, I don't focus exclusively on TurboGrafx or PC Engine, so it's kind of more on the back burner. But,
yep.
Yeah. Turbo CDs are expensive.
Yeah, if you run into one, it's definitely worth picking up. They are pretty pricey now, but you never know. Something might fall in your lap.
Do want to get one eventually for that Castlevania game.
Yeah, Dracula X is amazing.
Mm-hmm. So I hear.
Really good.
It's really, really good. It is. But we are at the end of this week's adventure, fellas. I would like to thank... I know. I would like to thank all of you for listening to the show or watching it on YouTube. If you're listening to it on Podomatic, thank you for being here and checking out the podcast. You can check out Richard at Richard's YouTube channel. I'll have that listed below in the description. And then Saru Maru-san has a website as well, where you can get all kinds of really cool-looking naked pictures of him. I don't know why he has those, but
in like crazy poses.
No, he's got some amazing artwork there and a lot of really, really cool T-shirts. You got to check that out. And then if you want to follow me on the Twitterverse, you can check me out at _Joshua Turbo. Don't forget the underscore, as it is the most important underscore in all of the internet. Thank you, everyone. Take it easy.
Bye, guys.
See ya. Later.
Bye.
Bye.